Well, now that we've gotten all that negativity out of the way with the most disappointing albums of 2023, it's time to talk about some albums that I enjoyed, but not enough to be on my top 10 albums of 2023. No, no, no. It's time to, talk about some albums that I feel still deserve a mention, an honorable mention, if you will. So here are my honorable mentions for hip hop for 2023. And these albums are, again, not bad albums in any way. They're mostly just albums that I either didn't like enough to be on my top 10, or albums that I didn't really sit with enough to properly form opinions on, but I still feel like they were good enough to mention, or just albums that I feel like maybe someone else would like. And as per usual, with most of these lists, there is no order here, so here we go. With the first one being Killer Mike's Michael. It's a good album. It's a good personal rap album that goes into a lot of Killer Mike's life, and it does a pretty good job to catch us up in terms of where he's been and what he's doing. Especially because this is his first solo album in over 10 years. The last one being Rap Music in 2012. So, in that time he's been doing a lot of Run the Jewel stuff, and while that's fine, like he's still been around. It's not like he disappeared. We've only been getting a very particular version of Killer Mike on those projects. So seeing him just basically on his own with features, of course, it's a different look at Killer Mike and a different look into his life. But with this project, I just didn't return to it as frequently as I thought I would, or I didn't connect with it as much as I thought I would. But again, still not a bad album. You get good raps, good production. Overall, solid listen. Next, we have Rory with I Thought It'd Be Different. Yes, Rory from the new Rory and Mal podcast. This is actually a pretty good album and almost made my list. Rory did a really good job of executive producing this project and really getting everyone together for it. I mean, he didn't do any singing or rapping on it, but I believe he did have a hand in some of the production and lyrics. So it's not like he just kind of slapped his name on it. He still did put in the work. But, it's a good project overall. It's easy to throw on. You don't have to really worry about it. Like it's not offensive in any way. So if you have a group of people around you and you just need to put music on, totally a solid album to do it with. But with that said, it did feel a little safe. So maybe that's what it was for me. Like, I don't know. It was missing something at the end of the day. Like, I can still listen to it. I still enjoy listening to it. But I feel like there's still something missing there. Next up is Boz with We Only Talk About Real Shit When We're Fucked Up. I have enjoyed listening to this album. And honestly, if it had come out earlier in the year, maybe it'd be on my top 10. But I think what throws me off here is the title of the project. We only talk about real shit when we're fucked up. Because in my mind, with that sort of title, I would feel like a lot of the album would be more focused on it. And, it very well could be, and I just have missed it because I haven't listened to it enough yet. But the project feels a little bipolar at times, where you do have some more serious songs, but then they are mixed in with these super high energy, more catchy songs, which, totally fine. I mean, we got Swimming Pools back in the day, and that was very much a song about, dealing with alcoholism. So, you can do both. But I don't know, maybe this album just hasn't fully clicked with me yet. But I mean, it is still a fun and enjoyable listen. It's just, I think I want it to be more on the nose, I guess. But also, that's not what Boz does, so whatever. I just need to listen to it some more. Next up is MacArthur Maze with Black Saturday and Kimball's Carnival. I love MacArthur Maze as a group and as people individually. They are great people. And I enjoyed a lot of the singles leading up to this project. So why isn't it in my top 10? I think a lot of that has to do with the songs that did end up making the project. While they are all fine, it kind of felt like we got pretty much the best tracks as the singles, which is not a bad thing, but there's such a disparity, or at least in my mind, there's a disparity there. However, the EP that dropped afterwards is great. And I don't know if that has to do with the production. I mean, with the Black Saturday project, that was fully produced by DJ D Sharp, which, I mean, he does a great job regardless. But with the Kimball's Carnival EP, we had other producers, including Noble, DJ Basta, I believe SK did some on there. So, there's a variety in terms of production. And also, it felt like there's a different energy going to that project. This project, or the EP, came out after, like basically at the end of the year, but this is after they had all their community events. They've been building up, a lot of people coming out to their shows, their events. They had their billboard in Times Square. They were on Sway. So, this EP almost felt like a victory lap in my mind, because it was recorded basically after all that. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe they just went in with higher energy. It was something different. It was, I don't know. But regardless, I still really like what they're doing, and I'm looking forward to everything else that they have coming up. Next, I have Navy Blue with Ways of Knowing. I believe I reviewed this album, and this was my first time listening to Navy Blue, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed my time with the album. He did a really good job of, just telling us about himself and making the album personal. So as a new listener to Navy Blue, it was pretty accessible, and I enjoyed it. I just didn't really return to it as much as I thought I would. This album might be one of those projects that you listen to a handful of times, you listen to it, and once you kind of get everything out of it that you need to get out of it, you kind of just put it away. It's not something that you need to return to regularly. Like, it's an experience, yes. Like, you get something out of it, but again, I didn't really return to it. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a knock on the album at all. Like, this is very much like it's kind of like a piece of art. Like, you already have in mind what you like about it. And, seeing it more and more doesn't necessarily change your opinion on it. You know what I mean? Moving on, we have Reason with Porches. This album only just started to click with me. And I think a lot of that has to do with me returning to it right before seeing Reason perform. Reason has pretty much always done a good job of being personal, and this album isn't really any different. Personally, I still liked his debut better than the following two albums, but it's still an enjoyable project. And now we have some albums that I didn't listen to enough to properly form opinions on, but still wanted to mention. First up is Nick Grant with Sunday Dinner. I literally just listened to this album this morning, so I can't comment on it too much, but I do like it so far. And I definitely wanted to mention it just because there's so many other people talking about it. And if somehow you missed it, like from other people's lists, like, you should definitely check it out. Nick Grant raps well on this project, and the production is really good from the one time I listened to it. Then we have McKinley Dixon with Beloved Paradise Jazz. And this is another album that I've only recently listened to. I listened to it earlier in the week a couple of times. And it's a very solid jazz rap album. Personally, I'm going to have to listen to it a few more times to really form an opinion on it, because on the first listen, because everyone's like, oh, it's such a good jazz rap album specifically, like, and the instrumentals is like what carries it. I didn't really, like, the instrumentals didn't really stick out to me. Like, it didn't feel as jazzy, but again, I that was like just off my first listen. As I started listening to it more, it did click a little bit more, but again, I don't think I've listened to it enough to properly comment on it. And very much the same thing with the next album from Genesis Owusu, Struggler. It's a solid album, but I just did not listen to it enough. The production's kind of all over the place, though, if I remember correctly. Like, it's not, traditional rap. It's a little more alternative, and again, not a bad thing. It's just different. Next, because we're getting towards the end of the list now, actually, we have Mick Jenkins with The Patience. I like Mick Jenkins, and this album is pretty solid. I just haven't listened to it much after it came out, nor have I really wanted to return to it. And this kind of goes back to what I mentioned with Reason's album. I think a lot of my listening choices have to do with when I initially listen to an album, because a lot of my listening connects with experiences. So, for example, if I have stuff going on in my life, like if I'm not in a great place and I listen to a super upbeat album, I might not connect with it because I'm like, I don't want to listen to this. This doesn't make me feel anything. Like, this makes me upset. So, it might have been something like that. I still do need to listen to this album again and again. Like, it's one of those projects that it is good. There are songs on it that I enjoyed. I love that song with Jid. I love the song with Freddie Gibbs. But it's just not something that I really felt like, yes, I need to return to it. But, now that we have this weird drought time, this is going to be one of those albums I listen to, as well as the ones I mentioned just previously. And the last one on this list is Earl Sweatshirt and The Alchemist with Voir Dire. This is a good album, but I think the rollout with the whole NFT thing really turned me off from it. Like, I don't know. I don't know exactly what they were trying to accomplish with it. Like, in theory, it makes sense, but there were other, probably better ways to go direct to consumer. Regardless, I do feel like The Alchemist and Earl really worked well together, and The Alchemist can bring out something different from Earl that really no one else has. Because, on Earl's like more solo stuff, like his last couple albums, they've been a little bit all over the place at times, or too much into one way. Like, Alchemist really brings out like what I like about Earl. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna listen to it some more. Like, I do listen to it more regularly than some other albums, but it just didn't make it. Anyways, that's all I've got for this honorable mention list. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. I'm going to be posting my top 10 pretty much the day after this comes out. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, in the comments below, let me know what you think, all that. And like and subscribe to see more rambling and content like this. And also let me know what your honorable mentions are. That's all I got. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.